Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
CBR Street Gang, over, well, by standing by, over.
Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Let me know if you can hear me across the various streams here, including YouTube. If you are in the chat on YouTube, I do see quite a few people in the stream. If you can jump into the chat, go ahead and let me know if you can hear me okay. And we're going to get started here in about a minute. Okay, let's go ahead and get the music under control here, and we're going to get started. Let's go ahead and turn this down. All right. And I got to turn it down on my side as well. Okay, let's get rolling here. Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is November 3rd, 2023, and this is our Friday live stream where we do some Bitcoin analysis, and we also take a look at Dixie, gold, and traditional markets. We are going to have a heavier focus on Bitcoin, of course, and we're going to start with Bitcoin here. On the daily time frame, we're going to switch over to the Bitcoin in 60 seconds chart. If you're not familiar with this chart, you can see it quite often on the Bitcoin in 60 seconds shorts videos here on YouTube and on x.com. If you are not getting those, you can always check the x.com feed and or the shorts feed on the main channel here, or you can hit the notification bell to be notified when those shorts go up. Typically one every day, although lately I've had some outside things to do, some family stuff to take care of, so I have not been uploading one a day every day this week, although there is a couple up there. Now, in the most recent Bitcoin in 60 seconds video, I did reference the monthly time frame, and I referenced that. Let's actually go over here. We'll get off the Bitcoin in 60 seconds chart. We'll go to the monthly here on Coinbase, as it's not very much different than the index. Now, I had mentioned that Bitcoin, just like on Monday, Bitcoin closed the monthly above the upper first standard deviation here at $32,000 or so. Now, this is fluctuating around with price, but it's roughly $32,000. And to the downside, bulls want to hold that $32,000 level, preferably, but still looking bullish all the way down to the basis here from the monthly time frame at around $26,000. This also happens to be the momentum pivot on the monthly here. Let's go ahead and get that pulled up. We'll use a free indicator. This is the BA reverse Stoke. You can search for it in the indicators tab on TradingView. And it is showing us a pivot of 26,350, or I'm sorry, 335. So, you know, anywhere around that basis, if we do see a closure, would start to turn the monthly down, at least initially. But as long as Bitcoin closes above it, looking good. Preferably, though, above the upper second. That, of course, keeps that upper first, and that keeps the upper second standard deviation as the upside target here, somewhere around, 37.5, 38.5, which would be the close open over here. To the wick high at around $40,000 or so. Above there, then we look to 45 and 48 at the wick high on a close open basis for the monthly. Now, that's not quite as relevant on the daily time frame currently, as we do see the potential for a high being put in here on the daily. On any close really below the open here from Wednesday, and that open was at 34,656. So if we do see a close below there, there is a technical high put in on the daily time frame, and I would be targeting somewhere around the close open here on the daily at $33,900 to $34,000, to the wick here at $33,400. If we do see that area dropped, I'd be looking at the close open over here at around 33K to 32,850. Below 32,850, we can see there is daily support. It is untested on this current move, and that is at 32,400 or so. The basis is coming in right below there, also a key area. You do want to see the basis held for continued expansion to the upside in this case, and that is coming in at roughly 32,150. So that's the big area to pay attention to. If Bitcoin does start to test the lows here below $34,000 on a close, then that opens up, 33,400 to 5, 33,000 to 32,800, and then below there, we're looking for a run to that daily support area, which has remained untested on the current move, to the basis at around, we'll just call it $32,000. That also happens to be the upper first standard deviation on the monthly. Below there, the line in the sand for this particular move up, and probably for some longer term time frames in terms of their velocity to the upside or their volatility to the upside, would be 31.8. This is the breakout area. This, as a reminder, is the wick high of the previous range at the highs. And this is a key area, being a daily, weekly, and monthly close open structure. This is from the breakdown to new lows on the monthly. We saw this back in, this would be June of 2022, that 31,784, 31.8 area. That was the big breakdown that took out the lows over here on a close, which was at 28.8. So once we saw that big candle, that led to a further capitulation to the downside, hit the lower second on the monthly, and then we saw that get ran on lower lows. And then now we've seen it climb back up, hit that that lower first, hit the basis, kind of oscillate around it, find it as resistance, and then of course back test it and then lift off above the upper first standard deviation. So really important area at 32K locally to 31.8. If Bitcoin does choose to head down. Now, what does this realistically mean for the longer term? If Bitcoin does head down and test this zone of interest down here at the daily at 32.4 to 31.8, this would mean more than likely a long form consolidation in this area from the daily perspective. And then we come back to it, look to see, bullish resets on momentum, bullish divergences on RSI, and then, our criteria would be, of course, breaking back above this key level area at the weekly at 34,750 to the monthly at 35K. Run this most recent wick high, which, by the way, on Monday, I had mentioned 36K very likely to around 36,200. There is a weekly just above there. We did hit the 36K target here. Some areas did hit that weekly at 36,2 to 3. On derivative exchanges, we did not see that same area get hit on spot. It was just 36,000. So we did hit those upside targets. Cool down is what we expect to see here, and is preferable. Now, when we actually drop down to the 12-hour here, I want to note that the Bollinger Bands are in a contractive phase right now. So we are in a bit of a, accumulation phase. Whether or not this turns into some sort of a 12-hour distribution and or reaccumulation remains to be seen. If it is going to be distribution, of course, we'll probably see another lower high that takes out the most recent low, and then we have to watch the low side of the structure. If that breaks down, that's where we're looking at that daily at 32.4 to the monthly at 31.8. Now, if it is going to head up, we want to see it break and start closing back above $35,000 on 12-hour closures that also can take out that upper second standard deviation on a close. That is currently coming in at 35,266. Above there, I would expect the close opens up here at around 35.5 to get taken, and then that $36,000 wick high to get taken along with the weekly at 36.2. Above there, I would be targeting expansion up to this weekly here at around 37.7 to 38K. If we did see it head on up, we could even see it tap on that 38.5 to the weekly above at $39,000 to $40,000. Maybe it even, wicks up higher or something. I wouldn't be looking for too much more than that. If it did start to get above like 40, 41, I would be looking at that as probably a major rejective area, at least in the shorter term timeframes. And we do need to see some sort of accumulation or reaccumulation to push things further up. But what we do want to see is exactly what we are seeing, and that is compression on the 12-hour after a nice expansive move to the upside. This still does give it room to the downside if it does want to continue from here, and we do see a higher high. We do want to see closures preferably above this last low, which is coming in at $34,000. But if it does make a lower low, it's still a consolidation until proven otherwise with a lower high. In this case, if it does come down to the lower second, lower third area, we're looking at somewhere around 33.5 to 6. Well, it's actually 33.260 to 33.6 or so. And it's almost 650. So 33.250 to 33.650. We could see a run of that. That would be a run of the low side range here. We do have some wicks and a close open down here on the 12-hour as well as the daily. So it would be worth paying attention to those areas. We'll look at those also when it comes to our volume map later on. Now, I don't have a big problem with what's going on here. I don't see this as inherently bearish. We do like to see consolidation. This would be considered a strong consolidation right now, but there is the potential for it to turn into a lower term time frame distribution. Do not confuse lower term time frame distributions with higher term time frame distributions. They are very different things. Can they lead into a higher term time frame distribution? Absolutely. But let me remind you of where the weekly is and what the weekly structure is looking like. Oh, hey, look at this. We have our higher low all the way back here at 26,500. You may recall this area as being a very important area on the weekly that I called out, that we talked about quite often on the daily and the shorter term time frames and the Bitcoin in 60 seconds videos, that this was really looking like an options gamma squeeze from the derivative contract side of things for options on places like OKX and Durabit and also CME. In this case, that turned out to be absolutely 100% true. It was a bit of a short squeeze / gamma squeeze as well, because they did have to cover the other side upon delivery of those options contracts, because people are taking delivery of those options contracts. They want the freaking coins. So if you want to say like, oh, hey, it's all because they're prepping for an ETF or an ETF is imminent or this or that, doesn't matter. Coins are what people want. They want the underlying asset right now, and that's what we are seeing. Well, but spot is selling into this move up. Yes, you are seeing spot sell into the move up, but there's more aggregate positions being put on the other side to claim that spot on the options market. So we do see a lot of that happening with open interest as well. I do want to call out open interest. Well, let's go ahead and refresh this chart. We can see that open interest on the hourly here is now back around. So it did get to a low. Excuse me. As I clear my throat right into your ears, my apologies here. We can see that on this particular move up, we had open interest on this prior low. Well, the prior low was coming in around 34, 100 to 200, we'll call it. And open interest was roughly around 10.14 billion. Now, we did see on this most recent higher low on the hourly chart here with a trend break. We do see these a little bit of a high. I would call this the close open high up here. This was more of just a straight move down. So we do see a structure break or a downtrend break. That doesn't mean that we won't see continuation past the low, but we do see a try for a structure break and a trend change here on the hourly. But we had lower lows on that open interest chart. So higher lows between these 2 points, lower lows on open interest. That is a bullish divergence. And in this case, is it something that is actionable? Yeah, if it does take out the most recent highs on a close, especially above $35,000 rather, $34,900 to $35,000, then I would expect open interest to then leg back up. We get a higher low that could possibly take out the higher high, and then we've got trend match on both open interest and our price action chart. Now, we are coming into a weekend, lower liquidity, lower volume, more of an opportunity for bigger players to come in and play within this market. So I would be careful. Doesn't mean that we're going to see big moves, but it is not out of the question. What you'd probably prefer to see over the weekend is a bit of consolidation and cool down. That's probably what you'd prefer to see. And we're going to take that into context with kind of what's going on globally in traditional markets and Dixie and stuff like that. Now, it's not going to have a direct correlation, but you should be aware of what's going on around the outside of the structure in Bitcoin. Of course, the Bitcoin chart will dictate the direction, and that is the primary chart that you should be paying attention to. Do not put too much weight on the correlation or decorrelation with other assets or indices. All right. Let's go ahead and look at the weekly, as we should be aware of where things are on the weekly. We're going to use our regular stream chart here that we typically show, not the Bitcoin in 60 seconds one, as we're pretty well aware of where those areas are. Can Bitcoin go to the 28K range? I'll answer that question. Can it? Absolutely. Will it? We're going to look at that. We're going to investigate whether or not what the conditions are for that to be met. We can't make a call for a specific range because conditions have to be met to even get momentum rolling in that direction, and trend is not supporting that particular price target just yet. As it stands right now, we have a valid breakout on the weekly. We did not get an immediate retrace. The upper first standard deviation has moved to around 31,500. I expect this to be around the highs here at $31,800 to $32,000. Again, we're getting the same look on the weekly that we have on the monthly, and that is where the upper first is likely to be in the same area on both charts. $31,800 to $32,000, maybe slightly above $32,000 into that daily zone that we just talked about at 32.4. We also see that the daily basis band was there. So a reminder, daily basis band is right around $32,000 as well. Good support at basis bands to the lower first. If it does drop that area, it would be still bullish. We'll look back at that in just a moment, but Bitcoin is still above the upper second standard deviation. We still see expansion of the Bollinger Bands to the upside here in terms of volatility. The upper second standard deviation is at $34,000. I do expect that to move further up into the local range, probably 34.4, 34.5, maybe even an expansion up to this last close open up here, which did close at around that 34.5, 34.6 area. So keep that in mind. We can see the upper second dropped. It's the upper first that you want to see for the expansion to remain fully intact. So in this case, that is what I would be paying attention to on the weekly. So coming into this weekend, into the Sunday close and the CME open, which will give you a clue as to where it expanded to. So I will pull that up in just a moment, but we'll see where the upper first is there, because you'll get an edge on that before spot even does its close open for the weekly. In this case, I do expect this to be 31.8 to 32.4. It's going to be right in that zone down here where the daily currently is. So it will be in a different position, especially if Bitcoin is still hanging out within this consolidation range. So this is the vital area. Below there, that is where we can start entertaining moves back to these weeklies here at 30,600 to 30,300, and then possibly the mid to upper $29,000 to $30,000 area. And if possible, then we look at that area if it is dropped. If that is a possible target from the weekly, meaning that we see 31.8 dropped, we just go in order 30,600 to 300. Below there, wherever the daily upper first is, likely to be in the $29,000 to $30,000, maybe higher. And then below there, that's where we can then start targeting that 28K weekly. From right where Bitcoin is at, it's just not a viable target until we see these, particular criteria for the local range dropped first. The close opens at 34, take out 33, 4 to 5, take out the close open here at 33, drop 30 to 850, and then we have our main target to the downside at that 32.4 to 31.8. Only if that area is dropped, especially on a longer term time frame, like a 5-day or a weekly. Then we start looking at that weekly down below at 30,600 to the one directly below it at 30,300. Until then, 28K isn't even on the board for me. So if we do see things shifting in that direction, be aware of it. But for right now, not really a concern or a target for myself. Until, we see some sort of a structural change as well, it's also not a target. Now, that's also right around the basis band of the Bollinger Bands on the weekly, currently coming in around $29,000. I do expect that to move up, of course, especially if Bitcoin is closing above the upper first standard deviation, and it's going to move up more aggressively if Bitcoin is above the upper second. Now, this current candle that's being painted right now is painting like a shooting star or an evening star reversal. That does not mean that it's going to act that way. Now, when looking at the possibilities, we do want to see closures for momentum's sake sticking above around $29,000 to $30,000. I will tell you, this is probably going to end up around that $31,800 to $32,000 again. So be aware of that area. Mark it on your charts. Make sure that you understand that it still can get ran and be bullish as long as it is not closed below on the higher term timeframes, at least for continuation of this current move up. Now, as that relates to some of the other higher term timeframes, they're not really going to become relevant until later in the month. But the monthly, just note, is at 26,355, right? So we did look at this, and that last higher low on the weekly is at 26,500. So very important areas to the downside. If we were to see 28K get hit, it's very likely those pivots get ran, and it wouldn't be a good thing for the bulls at least. So just understand that. Now, the daily momentum is at 35,385, so almost 35,400. That is looking to turn to the downside. This is expected. If Bitcoin's going to remain bullish, you'll see this bullishly reset, possibly a move down to wherever the basis is to lower first. Again, lower first is at $30,000. That's not necessarily something you'd want to see right now. So the longer Bitcoin goes sideways and the further up that the lower standard deviations get, the better it is for the bulls, at least currently. Basis band, no problem with that area getting hit at around that 32,150, 32,4 area, right into the zone that we want to see. If that area is lost, big problems for Bitcoin, probably lower highs after some sort of a lower or even a higher low. I would expect to see lower highs because you'll start to see the weekly turn as well as momentum catches up. Structure begins to put in a high on the weekly. It's not inherently bearish. If that were to happen, you'd still want to see major structural change. This is still a nice uptrend, fresh breakout. The expectation would be that 31.8 to 32.4 holds. That is the expectation for this move. If it does not, this is a bit trappy. We're looking for it falling right back into range, probably for a much longer period of time. And then maybe we start looking for some sort of lower lows on the weekly. Until that happens, though, there's not much bearish to be talking about. Those are just potential things to be looking out for. It is in a very big area of resistance, just like we saw back here at 31.8. We saw the double highs here, the double top, but then we saw the double bottom here right at another big important area where we saw the prior double top area. Nice higher low on a wick here, and then boom, up, consolidate, double top it, come back down for 2 retests of this particular breakout. What I would really like to see, and this is not always, it's what I'd like to see, not what's going to happen, right? But what I would like to see is these highs get tested. And you can, we can throw wicks down at the 30,600 to 30,300 just fine. But anywhere below there, it is big problems. Any higher term time frame closures below that 31.8, probably big problems. All right, so just understand that. When looking at the intermediate timeframes between the daily and weekly here, what we do need to pay attention to is where the upper first is on the 2-day, which is coming in at 32,269. Nice. Now that is not closing today. That will be closing on Saturday evening. So we will have a closure before the weekly close to pay attention to in terms of the 2-day. We can see that the upper second has moved up, giving it some room to 36,500. Now we did see the $36,000 area hit. Note that there is still that 36,200 weekly directly overhead. So we could still see wicks up into that area from the 2-day perspective. The upper first being at that 32 area, very important. If that's dropped, then we look to wherever the basis is coming in. Again, that's around $30,000 right now. All right. 3-day just opened. You can see that it did lose the upper second. Now the upper second is right around the highs, coming in at 35.5. Still an available target. Upper first coming in there at 32,190. Again, big important areas. Basis coming in right around $28,900 to $29,000. You want to see this move up on the 2-day and 3-day. You want to see this move up pretty aggressively. Now this will be closing with the weekly candle, so this will be something to observe before we get talking on Monday again. So we'll follow up with this, but make sure you pay attention to that 3-day when it closes with the weekly. The 4-day is going to be closing on Saturday with the 2-day. We see that the upper second is still being held on the 4-day, and that is at 34,250 rather. If it is dropped, the upper first is coming in there at $32,000. The basis is down there at 28,150. And of course, the 5-day, which is going to be closing with Monday's candle. So we will observe this one and talk about it on Monday's live stream as well. But the upper second is at 34,272. So basically 34,300. Below there, the upper first is coming in at 31. Looks like 31,350 or so. Below there, basis is still ticking up there. It is at the 28,400 area. You want to see this one catch up. And then, of course, we've got the weekly where the basis is a little bit further up in the $29,000 area. And just note that upper first being at 31.5 or so. I do expect that, of course, to move up into our 31.8 to 32.4 as mentioned earlier. That area is going to be the big one to watch. Can it get swung? Can we see the weeklies below it and still be good? Yeah, below those weeklies though at 30,600 to 300. That's where we're going to see momentum shift pretty dramatically. And that then brings into play a possible monthly shift as well. Doesn't mean it's an inevitability, but you don't really want to see the monthly shift before the quarterly has to take a turn to the upside here at the end of the year. Or it doesn't have to, but more than likely it will. I think we are above that pivot by a good margin now. The quarterly, 24,400. So that's even below the most recent lows on the weeklies here. So quarterly looks very, very bullish. But the quarterly also paints the picture that, we could see substantial downside into that pivot as well still. But yeah, that's going to be Bitcoin for right now. We will come back and revisit Bitcoin to talk about the volume map, as I do think it's important to follow up on. Give me just a second here. Trying to figure out what the hell is running outside. Okay. I didn't realize I was having guys come over to work on stuff today, but I guess I am. All right. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and take a look at Dixie. Now, Dixie, was and is breaking down now. So I had mentioned that there's two ways this is going to go. And this is very similar to what I'd be looking for on the lower term timeframes for Bitcoin as well. We do see that we are headed towards my 104.69 target. Nice. Now, that was really, predicated on, Dixie can run the highs up here. And if it closes above these highs and the upper second standard deviation, we're likely to see deeper 107s to 108 get hit. And above there, it would have been 108 to 110, 110 to 112, so on and so forth. But we did see the downside that we talked about play out. We saw it try to hold. It did, this was a reversal candle. So this was an evening star reversal on the daily. We saw a gap down and a close below the basis on the daily. And then today's candle is getting expansion to the downside, likely targeting the 104.69, 104.5 region. Below there is some supports around 104.5, low 104 area. But realistically, I'd be looking at like 104 at this wick low, this order block down here, to 103.50. More long term, as a more long term outlook from the dailies, we are seeing a reversal being confirmed. This is a daily distribution. Now, this daily distribution is against or in contrast to the monthly, the monthly, which just painted a breakout. Now, this breakout is looking a little bit questionable right now, but I do want you to note that we have an area to the downside at the lows again that is very likely going to be a very good base for Dixie at the lower first standard deviation on the monthly at 102. The reason why I say that this is a really big area of interest that could eventually even be the wick lows again at 99 to 98 by the lower second, I don't necessarily think that we'd be looking at a big distribution structure just right away. I think we would see more of a sideways consolidation structure. That's because of the pinch on the Bollinger Bands. We see that they're accelerating to the upside here and flattening on the top side. And we're going to see this start to really constrict on Dixie's price action here. This is actually pretty good for risk on assets, traditionally speaking. And a monthly high on Dixie would, support what I've talked to you guys about, and that's that quarterly, man. That quarterly is a powerful time frame, and that quarterly is pressure down, all right? And that's likely going to continue into the next quarter, especially with what we are starting to see. It's very early in the month, so this could turn into a giant wick. This is also the basis on the daily or on the monthly. So just be aware of that. This looks ugly now, and you're going to see a lot of people calling for way, way lower. We're seeing expansion to the downside on the daily. It's a daily distribution. But we just had a monthly breakout. So unless we see this wick low close below by month's end at 105.36, and then subsequently we see 103.5, which, by the way, that's a big daily level, right? And it's the open of the September monthly. So if we do see that dropped, then we can say, okay, there's going to be much more aggressive downside into that 102 region, and then possibly those lows again around 100, 99, 98, so on and so forth, down by the lower second standard deviation on the monthly. And only if we see a close Below that lower second standard deviation, can we really look for an aggressive long-term downside move on Dixie? Until we see that, and this is going to move up, so be aware it's going to move up to somewhere within this low side structure. Only if and when we see that, would that be very, very aggressive downside on Dixie, which would be very, very good for, risk on assets. And I would argue that the way Bitcoin has been acting, it's a little bit less of a risk on asset, more, to quote Mr. Fink, who's literally just quoting what people on the inside of the business are saying, is it's a flight to quality because it has limited supply. Okay. So I think we are seeing a transition in Bitcoin. We're seeing what it was built for in real time. You're experiencing it. So be aware of that. Don't just tie Bitcoin to other fiat markets. It's starting to, show that it can do its own thing. When we saw traditional markets dropping. Now, yes, a lot of this also does depend on what Dixie's doing. Dixie put in a nice high back here on October 3rd. And if we look at Bitcoin on October 3rd, what did we see? Well, we saw that was all the way back here. We saw that it did actually try to push up, and then Dixie started to just kind of go sideways. We saw that next higher low at the daily of 26,750 with the wick low at 26.5, and then immediately blast off. But again, you can't draw the one-to-one correlation because that entire time Dixie was just going sideways. And traditional markets were dumping. So Bitcoin was doing its own thing. It's doing what it was purpose-built to do. Now that we see Dixie dumping and Bitcoin is consolidating and traditional markets are starting to tick up, which we will look at, still in lower high territory, but they're moving up, while Dixie is accelerating to the downside, does provide for a bit of relief for traditional markets. And I would expect that to lead to Bitcoin, of course, doing its own thing still, but more than likely remaining in its bullish posture. When looking at Dixie on the weekly, this is the big one. This is the big high that we want to see by Friday. We want to see this wick low here and this close open. So this wick low is in at 106.36 to this close open right here. This is at 105. I'm sorry, that's that wick lows at 105.36. I think I said 106. This close open is at 105.58. We want to see this area dropped, preferably right where it's at. Just if it hangs around here, especially at the 105 region and closes here on the weekly, that's going to confirm this high. That high is also going to be coming on. I was going to say it's going to come on some longer term bearish divergence, but it's not. That's a higher high. There is no bearish divergence, no in-trend bearish divergence or hidden at the moment, but that is going to keep the momentum oscillator pointed to the downside, thus confirming that we have, momentum plus now the high put in. We're going to be searching for lower trading prices on Dixie. The monthly is pivoted at 102.68. So if we do see a high put in on Friday on Dixie, then week over week, we begin to keep a close eye on that 104, 103.50, 103, and then 102 on the monthly coming into the monthly close. So for the next few weeks, we need to just keep in mind 102.68 to the downside as we watch the weekly and dailies on Dixie. Now, Dixie is coming into an area of support, so just be aware of that. So it can still bounce around. I wouldn't fight the expansion on this, though, if it closes like this. Maybe a daily bounce. Many drives of bearish divergence now, but it is getting to the bearish control zone here on RSI. That's coming in at about 104.84, so a little bit below this area, and I suspect that might even move to that 104.69 area. Now, we did see this area found as resistance and then flip to support. So this zone between that 104.5 or so to 105 is going to be an important zone for Dixie. If that breaks down, that's where we're getting that 103.50 area, which is the open of September. So that would be the next big target. If we do see that area dropped, then that starts to really validate that quarterly coming into the end of the year, I suspect. Now, the daily momentum pivot is also pointed to the downside on Dixie, 106.69. Man, always with the meme numbers, Dixie, really? And people make fun of the crypto markets for being, just complete memes. You haven't really looked at fiat too much then, have you? Well, complete meme number time here on Dixie yet again. 106.69. If we did somehow see an aggressive bounce on Dixie, that's all the way by the upper first. I doubt that that's what we see. Might be in for some lower term time frame bounces, but this is looking like it's going to continue down. We'll just have to follow up with this on Monday. Not a good way to close the week here. It's really about next week. We want to see the close open down here today and then move on into next week with continuation. So that's going to be the big thing to watch coming into Sunday on the close open is where does this subsequently close today and then open on Sunday. It is in this bouncy area, so just be aware of that. Let's go ahead and look at gold. Gold moving back towards $2,000 on the daily here. It does look a little toppy on the weekly. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a top on the weekly, though. We see a bottom being painted here on the daily, and we see the upper first standard deviation being tested. So we did get a wick up into $2,004. If it does close above the upper first again or anywhere above 1995, we're going to see a low put in on the daily. I suspect this is going to come on bullish divergence, and I am correct. And I would be targeting somewhere around the SMA, which is at 2001 and above, basically. This would be, anywhere around the highs here, 2005, 2006, to this 2010, 2015 area at the weekly, which is technically $1.65 above there. So 2016 above there, we're looking for 2020, 2030 into the weekly at 2035, possibly that daily upper second standard deviation at 2040 to 45. Looks very good. Now to the downside, if we do see this last higher low, which we pointed this out on Wednesday, if we see that area dropped and really this close open at 1970, then we're looking to the basis, which is quickly moving to the next wick low area at around that 1953. Very important area. If that's dropped, then we're looking lower, somewhere around the 1930 to 40 area. If it cannot hold the 1950 area, looks very good still. Yes, this is starting to look as though, downward pressure may in fact turn into a bullish reset of momentum. It can stay stuck to the highs pretty well up here. That momentum pivot is at 2005, but if this puts in a low, it's likely to adjust down to the most recent low while it's still up in this oversold zone. We can see that the weekly still got some heat on it as well at 1837. So this is really pointing to weekly continuation on gold. The upper second standard deviation at close today is likely to move right into that 2016, 2020 area up here, and probably going to get continuation to the 2040, 2050 area over time. Holding that upper first after a test is beautiful. This is also, a retest of these highs over here. And that is at that 1970 area. Of course, that's the area that we called out on Wednesday. And yeah, it was Wednesday, as it was kind of trading and looking a little ugly on Wednesday, but held up very nicely. Below that area, the real big area would be, this 1953. Below there, that's where a high gets put in on the weekly. Looks really kind of bearish down below this open, close open at 1932. That's where the basis might save it if it did get there at 1930, but this is all hypothetical. It's trading more towards that $2,000 area. Taking a little break after expanding up into that upper second standard deviation. So still looking good. Pressure still remains to the upside on the weekly. I like gold for now, above 1970 basically. And that leads us to our final item here, and that's going to be traditional markets. Traditional markets looking a little strong here on the weekly. Again, I'd mentioned that it was setting up for a bounce. I love the expansion down here after the pinch in the Bollinger Bands, the expansion down, and then the retest of the lower second and third. We're seeing Dow kind of, and sorry about the coughing. We're seeing Dow gapping up on the way up to take this high. Takes it on a close, 34,150, which it did swing. Excuse me. Wow. This is, I'd mentioned I want to see a reclaim of this low at 34.1. Next area is going to be this low up here at 34,350, where the upper second standard deviation is likely to come in. Now, this is getting pretty extended, especially on the gap ups, but here's the advantage of the gap up. It keeps momentum intact here. Now, this is going to move into the bullish control zone, most likely. It's already kind of there. It's at the midline. If you ever want to put bullish control zone stuff on here, just go ahead and snap some horizontals. We'll actually do that so that I can show you what I'm talking about here. We'll go with dashed. We'll put the coordinates at, we'll put it at 62. That's actually a caretaker crown thing that I really like, is a 62.38 instead of a 60.40. Let's go ahead and on the other side do a 38 for bullish and bearish control zones. And yeah, you can see that this is probably, because it's around the midline, this is probably headed up towards a bullish control zone test. Now, the reason why I'm doing this on Stoke is this is not a Stoke RSI. This is a regular Stoke, which measures close over close price action, right? It's measuring close over close price action momentum. So in this case, you can draw like your trend lines. I don't like trend lines on price action. I like trend lines on momentum oscillators, as they are, typically act as regressive areas, meaning a return to the mean or regression back to the mean. In this case, we are looking at 32,400 as the momentum pivot is where it would cross down. That doesn't seem right. Oh yeah, 32.4. It's trading at 34.1. My brain did not register the 4 there, even though I just said it a moment ago. We did see very nice bullish divergence coming off the lows here. I would like to see some more for continuation. I do suspect this will get a higher low whenever it does put in a high. It's obviously not there yet. And it's looking as though it does want to take this next high at around 34,150 to 34,350 or so. To test that low at minimum. We'll see where it closes, coming into Monday. Very nice, strong close on the daily here. Very nice, strong looking close to set a low on the weekly. Keep in mind, this is going to come on bullish divergence. This is a hidden bull div coming all the way from March. That is this prior low. So we've got bullish divergence between these last 2 points. Looks really damn good, especially with a full-on reset of the weekly momentum here. So this is painting as though it wants to end the year strong, to be quite honest. We'll have to see if it can follow through, get some higher lows on the daily, and then really start following through with the weeklies. But in this case, 32,714 is the momentum pivot by end of today, and it is likely going to confirm that at close. Nice strong close. Basis is right here at 34, 225 or so above there. Yeah, and we're looking at 34, 350, and then the 34 to $35,000 area. So 34.5 to 35,000 by the upper first standard deviation on the weekly. Now, of course, this is a downtrend. If it does take out this high on a close, either today or next week, then we have a trend break. We're looking either for continuation right back to the top side to take out the next lower high, at 35, and then possibly a higher low cool down, or just straight shot right back to the highs, especially with the way that momentum is looking. That is viable from here. When looking at NASDAQ, we're seeing, the same thing. In fact, much stronger. Back above the basis here. This is looking very, very, very good. This would be a trend break if it closes like this, especially a flat top. If we don't see a shadow, and some people still call wicks shadow, so if we don't see a shadow or a wick, this is likely just to continue right on through to test this high over here at 15,333. And possibly 15,4 to 5 at the upper first pretty quickly. This is very, very strong. Nice reversal off the lower second and third. A recovery of the basis and lower first in one go is stupidly bullish. So, it's still set up for a range overall, but I do think that its next destination would be the, 15,300 to 15,500. And then above there, we're looking at 15,600 to 15,800 or so at the upper second pretty quickly. And NASDAQ can do that pretty easily. NASDAQ has done this before, especially coming off of this just sweep down and then beautiful, beautiful turn on bullish divergence, longer term bullish divergence. But this would be very, very good. Still very bullish on the monthly for RSI as well. So this would just be a very good thing. And it hit the primary zones, at 14. Didn't quite get to my target there at 1441, but good enough. This is looking very good, very strong. If it can maintain it through next week and follow through on the daily. Daily looks very good as well, obviously gapping all the way back up. And we had noted on Wednesday that it would actually get a trend break locally at around 14,775. It did that. It gapped straight up over the basis, very strong, and hunting for a close at the upper first right now. I mean, this is closing in 39 minutes. So I'm sorry, not 39 minutes, 2 hours and 2 hours and 9 minutes. What am I looking at here? Oh shit. I've been talking to people that are not in my local time zone, so my apologies, guys. So by end of day today, we're looking at this closing very, very strongly. That still doesn't seem right. What time is it? It's going to be 4 o'clock, 4:30. Okay, so why are we getting a weird close time at that? We don't have extended hours on Fridays. I don't know what I'm looking at, to be quite honest with the time. Maybe I'm in a time warp. Yeah, that's just not correct. It's about 39 minutes. Yeah, that's just not correct. But also my clock isn't correct over here either because I was talking to guys on the East Coast, so this is closing in 39 minutes. This is not accurate. I don't know what's going on with that. So yeah, it's closing in 39 minutes. This is for some reason taking in post-market. So the actual close is coming in 39 minutes. If it closes above the upper first at 15,132, it's you can't argue with that. That shit's strong. Excuse my language. 14,154 is the momentum pivot. It's 1,000 points above that. If you're looking to fade this, especially after a nice trend break, you're going to be waiting. I think a while at this point if this closes like this. Very, very nice move up. and kind of met all the criteria, you know, we've talked about. It's got a little bit more to go to this low over here. You know, it was really about taking out this high after recovery of these lows. So we were talking about this on Wednesday. You know, this was the next big area because it's already above these lows. So you look to this low, which is around the basis. It recovered that pretty easily at 14,800 or so. Got the gap up area here. That's at 15,000. And I'd mentioned below 15,000 at this little spike low here. You know, probably ready to try to put in like a higher low, or at least try for it. But above there, it's pretty bullish to keep continuing. The next big area, which it's already tested this low at 15,140 or so. I would say a little bit more, 15,175 above there. You know, we're looking at the highs again at 15,264 to 15,333 at the highs. Yeah, it's gonna go for a high run in my opinion. Momentum looks very good. There is bullish divergence. No, there was not. It's not coming off bullish divergence. Still in lower high territory, but looking very strong from a momentum perspective. And the weekly's looking to seal the deal on the bands, to be quite honest. Same for SPY. It's already, you know, gapped all the way up, already trading around the highs. Setting up for a big range on mean reversion, though. You know, basis is at 426, 425. That was kind of our pivot area anyway. That and 420. Below there, we were looking for 415 to 410. We got our 410. I'd be looking for the highs to get ran from here. 440 to, you know, 445, I would say even above. Yeah, to go test this low. 443 to 445 area. Yeah, where's this high? Yeah, 445. It's 444.69. Go figure. So yeah, 443. I would just give it a generalized area. 440 to 445 is kind of the next area. Of course, that does mean that it needs to take out 438. But if it can get above there, that's the next big area I'd be looking for. Does that mean that it, you know, doesn't put in a high before doing so? It could. It's actually now that it's raced, you know, and taken out this last lower high here, looking very good to come down and put in a higher low and start building structure. We're going to see that the daily momentum is 411, looks good. And this is probably, yeah, not quite as strong as NASDAQ in terms of being above the basis. It looks a little bit more like Dow. But, you know, this is most likely, I should say, 433.82 is the area to watch coming into, you know, the close here. And in a little more than 30 minutes, we're looking at the weekly setting a low, trading back above, open below the lower second, and then trading back and closing pretty well above the lower first. Still gives the lower first area a viable zone to be tested in the coming week at, you know, 425 to 430. But, you know, it's probably going to keep testing around these highs at 438, 440. Above there, we're looking 450. It has already tested this area here. We still have a downtrending structure, but it's very close to breaking it. So above 440 on a daily close, gonna really start painting the weekly as a viable reversal from the lows, really targeting the upper bands over time, which is around 450, 460. Yeah, upper first to upper second is literally 449 to 460.59. So that's going to be the next big area if it can get above the basis at 438. Looks really good. Weekly also, this is what you want to see. This is the kind of setup you want to see coming off the lower bands. In terms of volatility, this is awesome. For those that took the trades from the lows, which I had mentioned to you guys, I took some call options. When I say I took some, I was pretty aggressive with NASDAQ and SPY and a few others in terms of specific stocks. But it looks good above 414 for momentum, rather. The monthly still, it's 446, but it can get there very quickly if the weekly, continues and looks very strong. At least, in my opinion, to go test the upper second standard deviation around 443, 445 in the near term, if it can close above the upper first today at 434. So, looks good. All right. That's going to do it for the bulk of analysis today. Let's get back to Bitcoin and take a look at our volume map chart. So let's go ahead and turn on volume, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys to ask any questions you might have before we head into the weekend. Let's go ahead and get all the fun stuff on the chart here. Well, that's not what I wanted. What in the heck happened here? Uh-oh. Am I on the right chart? I am. Uh-oh. I think I borked my volume map. Oh, that sucks. All right. Well, that's got the local highs. And I can almost guarantee that this is not the rest of that map. But it is. All right. Somehow it got painted outside of that area. Okay, good. Well, that works. Let's go ahead and I'll fix that later. Glad it's not broken. Got a little freaked out by that. Don't want that to be broken, that's for sure. As we did put some time in on stream to build it. I mean, I would have just rebuilt it right now, but it is a little bit longer term. All right, so we can see that we've been updating this volume map with each high volume high and wick that gets put in. So we've got the close opens in yellow, the wicks at the highs in white. So we had the big move up. That was this candle here. So this guy right here. That was the close at 33,985 and the wick there at $35,000. We did not see a close open above it, but we did see a high volume high wick above it. So that got marked. As we scroll over, that got tested again on high-ish volume, but it still remained in there. No need to paint that any further. We don't paint the lows. Remember, we're looking at this and using it as continuation. We can temporarily paint the lows. I use the cyan or teal rather trend lines just to paint those lows when they do come in on high volume, when they are in between levels of the map. We did see some high volume closes come in here. We saw this high volume close, but what about this wick? It's right in the volume map. We don't mark it, but it's slightly above. Doesn't matter. We don't need to mark it. It was just a little bit of a minute chart deviation in that case. If you did want to mark it, you could. It's not the primary area to be looking at, though. It's already inside the volume map. The close above, however, was higher volume, and it was a close above, so we mark its close in yellow, and we marked its wick in white. We did see another close above that was on higher volume, so we marked that in yellow and the wick in white. Now, in the local area, for what we got going on here, we have this deviation close back below this wick. It did close inside of the close open, dropped it. Where'd it go? Right back to the $35,000 wick high. bounced right back to the close open there of this particular lower high than this guy here. It wasn't a lower high, it was a higher high structure, but the high before the highest high on a close, bounced into it, swung it, found it as a rejective area, came back down, tried to base on the wick at 35,157, dropped through, found the $35,000 area as resistance, dropped in. Now we have a bigger zone. So we've got $35,000 to basically 34 as being the big zone of interest. It did put in, a nice low in here, went back, retested this zone here just above 35, found that as resistance, came down, and it's still playing in that $34,000 zone. Got 34,100. Swung this area, did put in some higher volume low structures here, so nice high volume low there. I marked it temporarily as it is not part of the volume map for continuation and support. Wasn't directly on one of those high volume continuation areas. We mark it just temporarily. It has acted as resistance. It did get deviated above here. We did have another area that was a higher volume low down here that acted as a low for a little bit, and we can even mark this guy here just before getting to that 34 area, 34,100. So a swing of this, high put in. Now it's just kind of playing in this mid zone. Now, there's a few different ways to look at this as well. Let me go ahead and clean this a bit, as I do want all of this in my volume map there. So let's go ahead and move that back into where it should be. We'll even take our trend lines and move these in here. And for local structure, in the lower term timeframes here, let's go ahead and turn this off for a moment. We can see that with that volume map, we can even take this particular move down, get the area of interest on the way back up in terms of a anchored volume area. You can see that it's right around the point of control there at 34,400 to 500. So big important area in between $34,000 and $35,000. Go figure. It's the 50% of that range is where we're seeing the most interest. This is also going to be a daily area of interest as we kind of scroll out here and we pull a fib. We can see that I am operating on log here. And this is going to be a linear fib. Oh no, it is on log here. So let's actually go linear for a moment because we're only on the daily. And we can see that there is an important area locally at 34,750, the 888 directly below, right around the lows is 33,622. And this local area, if we were to take just the local area for where this range was built from, we can get rid of the volume map, the POC for the move down, and we can just take this, intra move. It did have this move down here, which is important at that 32,850. But if we're looking at swings, it was technically a swing. But if we're looking at relevant swings that are building ranges, it has not been, really retested even on a close open. So we can take the high here to this swing low, which I think is going to be one to watch. And you can see that the 50% of this current area is right around 34,500. So for the kind of where we're seeing swings come in, like on the 4 hour, we are seeing this as a continuation of the move up, right? So that 32,850, it's kind of the line in the sand because it is a continuation wick low of a particular move. But like a 4 hour swing chart, we're looking at, we're looking at the area that it's playing in locally as being this last actual swing low after we had a high put in on a close. So we're looking at the 50% of this range being 34,500. The 382 at 34,150 or so, 140, 150, big area. So that's going to be something worth watching. And then the 618 is at 34,850. Above 34,850, it's probably going to run 35,000, 35,500. Below 34,140, it's probably going to run into the mid to upper 33,000s. Not out of the question. You can see that the 382 has been a basing area for price action since it put in this higher high. It was prior. It was also a basing area. If you were to take like, the actual wicks over here, it was the basing area. It was the 50%. So we had this being the 50%. Nice little wick down to the 191, by the way. And, you could take the swings too. So you could see that it's kind of dead on some of these wicks on that 50% at 34,100 or so to $34,000. Now that 50% is 34,500, and that area is now the 382. So if you're pulling it the other way, it's a 618 or it's a 382. Either way, it's right in the pocket there. And on the other side, 34,850 is going to be the number to watch on the fib side of things. And then 35, 4 to 5, probably the destination up here around that 786 to 888, which is actually a little bit higher, to be fair. It's at 35,600 or so. Right dead on this wick high that never got closed above there. So somebody go find Torque and shake his hand for the 888 calls. All right, that's going to do it for my analysis today. Let me go ahead and jump into the chats here after I get the music back up to cover for me reading. So give me a moment. Let's go ahead and get this here going. All right, so I don't know if that's actually going out to the stream or not. You can let me know. I'll check on the speaker monitor over here. Oh, it's me. I hear me on my speakers. Yes, it is. Okay. All right, cool. Let me go ahead and read the chats here. I see barbecue chat. It should be in the background. I hear it coming through the monitor. Yeah, it's probably the song and I faded it in. All right. If you did find this stuff useful and you're new here on the YouTube side of things, go ahead and subscribe. Throw a like on the video. I do appreciate it. It doesn't do much outside of helping me grow my audience. I don't have any paid products. I don't shill anything. I don't have any affiliate links for you. So, if you appreciate the content, just go ahead and give it a like, subscribe. I'm going to keep doing this. It's going to remain free. Let's go ahead and read over here. All right, Jimmy, you headed out. You feeling better, buddy? All right, cool. You take care, bud. Jimmy says bye to everyone that he does not know in the YouTube chats, as there's usually a crossover where you guys are saying hi to him whenever I do note that he is over there. So there is multiple streams that I got going on right now. No merch. No, Cheryl, no merch. By the way, hello, Cheryl. Hello, Jedi. Hello, others that I know are in my viewing party here, but not chatting. If you would like to chat, I do have it turned on to subscribers, so you would need to sub the YouTube channel in order to chat. Main reason why is even though I'm a small channel, I was getting bots pre-stream and post-stream that were coming into the chat and just being silly, even with the filters and checks in there for moderation. All right, so if you do want to chat, come on in and hang out. And if you have any questions, go ahead and get them in the chats. I don't have too many questions from the non-YouTube stream today, as those guys are wrapping up end of week stuff over at the prop shop. So yeah, and Jimmy's got, yeah, most of the students went home as well. So there's guys that are really jamming on getting in for the new FINRA Series 24 and 57 tests they've got coming up mid-November. Another group of guys is going in. And just so you know, if anybody in YouTube is ever interested in getting into a trading firm, otherwise known as a prop shop, just kind of depends on where you are, what terminology you're using, and what kind of portfolios they're handling. But in this case, they are looking for people who are familiar with the crypto space, but you should have at least an SIE. So you should have at least one FINRA cert somewhere along the way. But they're looking for people with experience in crypto. That can be professional or personal experience. The way to vouch for that would be in an interview and your knowledge of projects and on-chain metrics and stuff like that. But here in the United States, FINRA is still the standard for being able to get licensed to trade. Series 24 is your market maker, and Series 57 is a charted technician stuff, financial stuff. You can have Series, 6 and 7 and all the others along the way as well. Everyone is welcome, but they are looking for people who understand crypto, have traded crypto, either in a personal or professional way. If you're looking to break in professionally, you should have experience with FINRA certification. So, and there's a lot. This is only going to, accelerate in the future, by the way. So many shops, many firms, many financial institutions are going to be onboarding people who understand crypto markets and or training specifically for new people to understand crypto markets. So that is something that is becoming an emphasis, especially as sales teams ramp up ETF sales proposals and start getting that stuff out there. 15-minute, by the way, on Bitcoin, has that trend break and that higher low. It could consolidate a little bit more, so just watch for any closes above that 34,850, 875 area. Subsequently $35,000. I would also watch anything below 34.4 right now, 34,350 this weekend. Give you an indication of where it's going to test. If Coinbase starts to do futures trading, well, I guess, they do have futures trading, but it's if you're on the pro account side of things. Maybe they'll open up options trading in the future, especially, having ETFs launch, maybe they go full registration with the SEC for that. I don't know. It would probably have to be a different side of the business. They might have to separate that out, kind of like how they have the custody side of the business separated out for a lot of what the ETFs are referencing, as Bitcoin being for the Bitcoin custodian being Coinbase. It's Coinbase custodian trust. So different management. It's got to be separated in terms of its structure as well. So I don't know. They could offer that. I think you're going to see a lot of options start to really fire up on different platforms. Look at the Mickey Mouse platforms that we've been operating on for a very, very long time in terms of leverage traded exchanges they're going to get their lunch eaten. Some will survive, some will not. The big ones probably do. If they aren't, prosecuted into the dirt, you're really just going to see traditional finance platforms and brokers become the main places that you're going to see leverage traded Bitcoin. And you're going to see it, the primary source of leverage is going to be options, and it's going to significantly outweigh the open interest that you see anywhere else on any type of derivative product, because you're going to see the leverage. When you guys really understand like the leverage of the options markets, it's going to blow your mind. Because if you're coming from the crypto side of things and you're used to these Mickey Mouse exchanges, you know, but they're massive, they have billions of dollars. Yeah. Have you seen how much money is traded in options on brokerage exchanges, like legit brokers? This is a freaking drop in the bucket. They're literally doing the amount of open interest that Bitcoin holds on a weekly and monthly basis in a day. So yeah, I don't think many of these exchanges that are derivative exchanges, you know, many are gonna go for the ride, but they're probably going to be regulated out of existence and or have to be pulled into some sort of regulation. Of course, by the way, this also means that a lot of the trading via Bitcoin will become KYC, because at a regular broker, you buy the ETF shares, you redeem them, you're KYC. Like, there's no non-KYC option. So I do expect you don't need certification to trade options. I get this question a lot. You can trade options right through your broker. Like, you got Fidelity, trade options through them. You can buy and sell options. And in fact, like Fidelity and all these different, you could go to Webull, you could go to, I wouldn't, but you could go to Robinhood. You can go to, I mean, there's tons and tons of licensed brokers you can go to and you can trade options. They're all working off the same spreads. You know, sometimes you need like to have your account open for a certain amount of time before you can trade the options. You know, you're only really allowed to buy or sell stock. You can maybe, you know, bet short or long, but not in the traditional way that you're used to on crypto exchanges. I gotta move my microphone, sorry. Take a sip of water. No, you just go through any kind of broker. You know, there's lots of brokers in the United States that are licensed, bonded, that you can trade options on. Sometimes you have to have a set amount of money in order to trade options because of the fact that options are levered. So you will need, in some cases, some brokers require a minimum deposit or a minimum maintained balance for you to trade options on them with them. Really depends on your risk profile as well. And just about every broker has like really robust materials for explaining options as well. And then I'm going to be, as I've said, getting into showing you the spreads and options and stuff like that, and explaining how options work. I'll be talking about what the Greeks are and what they mean. You know, your delta, gamma, vega, theta, so on and so forth. And how they relate to each other and what they're really measuring and why, and some basic strategies and why those basic strategies are employed. I'm going to be talking a lot about it because, quite frankly, just go over to something as simple as CoinGlass and look at CME. You know, a lot of it is not just long and short positions. Almost all of this is option positions. Now, you can go and look at the actual options open interest on CME, but you know, there's a lot of open interest there now. It's only going to get more because that is futures. So they're going to be trading lots of futures, especially when an ETF launches. So, but ETF, launching is going to be where you're going to see the levered side of things really ramp up on the options markets. So, of course, you'll get traditional longs and shorts on the ETFs themselves, but options are where it's going to be. You also see CME start to take over for every single. They'll be top of the list in terms of open interest on your, CoinGlass, your crypto quants, your glass nodes. You're going to start seeing CME really headline, and probably significantly, especially with what just happened with the Sam Bankman-Fried trial, and then the prosecutors coming out basically warning all the other heads of exchanges, basically, like, you're in our crosshairs. That'd be a pretty fitting, coordinated way to do it. Launch ETFs, get everything, basically pulled into all that open interest, start to aggregate into the options books for the various ETFs, open interest rising on the long and short bets, and then CME really taking over the futures side of things. There's futures for Bitcoin, that you can trade, but they pale in comparison to what's traded on CME. So, Fidelity's big name. Yeah, Fidelity is one of the more popular brokers to go to. They have significant amount of AUM as well. There's tons of brokers. So, a lot of people like Webull. I use Webull myself, and Fidelity, and other accounts that I can't really discuss here. You can also do JP Morgan. It was the problem with Robinhood was that they were selling their flow, and that's a problem. They all can look at it. Let's put it that way, but you really don't. Being that overt in the way that they're selling their flow in order to make the trades, the trade fees zero, being a new player in the game, rising that fast, it was just dirty. And of course they get a slap on the wrist, but guys in crypto do the same shit, and they're looking into flow and counter trading you and all that shit, and they don't, That's why Sam Bankman-Fried's so shocked that he's getting the short end of the stick there. But you steal $8 to $10 billion worth of funds, you should go to prison, no matter who you are. It's unfortunate that more people aren't in prison for that kind of crap. Yeah, you can do Charles Schwab. There's E-Trade. You can do Merrill Lynch. I think just about every broker is going to have 0% fees, but obviously you pay for your options position. It just means that they wouldn't be packing a fee in on top of that. But Fidelity is probably the most well-known. Yeah, Fidelity, Webull, JP Morgan, Robinhood if you really want to. The problem with Robinhood is I think they still will. Somebody would have to let me know. I don't think they actually let you transfer crypto out now, or maybe they do. I don't freaking know. At least Webull lets you do it. So if you were to redeem ETF shares for the underlying asset like Bitcoin, or eventually there's going to be other ETF wrappers for coins. Probably ETH is probably next on the board. I think there is applications already in, if I remember correctly. So it's more of like, whatever platform that you're on, you do want to be able to pull the cold storage. So I would definitely read the fine print. Fidelity allows you to. I believe Webull does as well. You can transfer coins in and out. If it, at least Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think there is some coins they don't support transfer out. And they use Apex Exchange. So Apex has been adding more transferable assets for cryptocurrencies. So I think like Link you can get out of there now, but you do have to check and read the fine print, because a lot of them do allow you to buy and sell crypto even now, and they have the more popular coins, you know, your Litecoin outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum. A lot of them have Litecoin, Cardano and Solana and all the rest. So, you know, if it's a popular coin, if it's running in the top 25 of coin market cap, they probably got it. But for many of them, you could only transfer Bitcoin and Ethereum and nothing else. And I think they've probably expanded that by now. Somebody in the other chat. Oh, you guys still are there. Yeah, I said Charles Schwab. You can do Schwab. Interactive brokers. Yeah. Okay. First trade. I said SoFi, I think. You can do SoFi. I mean, there's tons of brokers for stock trading, and most of them are going to offer crypto. And every single one of them has offers options as well. I'm not a big fan of Robinhood because you couldn't move coins on or off of them to begin with. And then also the way they were selling their flow, which they got caught, but is not uncommon what they were doing. Just the way they were doing it was dirty. Look, I mean, Coinbase is going to be the destination. I know that they're spinning up European operations as well, and getting all the licenses and compliance stuff in order and they have a leg up. I mean, all the big ETF brokers are going to be using them for as a custodian. So, you know, this is basically they're in for regulation in many places as well for other parts of their business. So it helps them just being the custodian. So, yeah. Let's see. 75 million, 90 million, 81 million, 71 million, 77 million rather, 73 million. That's a lot of money. A lot of USDT is headed into Binance right now. We're talking 150, 200 and 230, 320. So about 400 million just went into Binance. So 400 million tethers. So nearly $500 million in tethers literally in the last 25 seconds just went into Binance. So there's that. Maybe the weekend will get interesting. I wonder what alts they're going to be picking up. We'll find out, huh? I think Solana ticked down. Let me check on Solana real quick. It's still holding our $38 to $40 level. It does, to be fair, it looks like it's going to put in a high here. Yeah, it's probably going to put in a high here, but I would expect it to kind of probably chop around above 38 for a little while. Yeah, it's still looking good above like 34, 35 bucks. Looks fine. And that weekly is really what's going to be driving this. As long as it's above 35 on the daily, it's looking good to continue on the weekly, which is still at 30 bucks. So I don't think this move is over necessarily, but it does need to like get continuation. it really needs to break 50 bucks, 48 to 50 bucks, and just get continuation. Otherwise, it's at risk of just chopping around this area for an extended period of time. Nice move on the daily though, man. It's very, very nice. What the bull bands look like. Yeah. 36.71 on the upper first. Basis band is coming in at 31. Likely to move to our support resistance area at 32.40 or 32.5. So that's this wick over here. It's likely to head there. I would still say on the daily you want to see it hang out above 35 bucks. It's above there. It preserves the opportunity to keep in the low $40 range and start making an assault for the highs again around its current wick at 47 to 50 bucks or so. Above there, this thing's probably going to leg up pretty good. Yeah, that's where we got our 75.36 target up there. Very nice. I might have mentioned this, but I was picking up Solana spot on the lows, so makes me happy. I haven't really been trading it. I did take a trade or two on it, but you know me, all about the BTC. Litecoin? We can take a look. Litecoin legged up. I've been a big proponent of Litecoin in terms of its functionality because I do use it a lot. The daily, you know, it's struggling at, you know, 70 bucks. So 69.11. Man, the upper first is nearly 69.69, but it's coming in at 69.59. Above 70 bucks, I mean, I think Litecoin's in for a significant move up. I mean, 73 to 76 is, you know, the primary destination. But above there, it's, you know, it's kind of game on to at least like 80 to 85 bucks. Yeah. Right now, I mean, I'm not too enamored with Litecoin. Above 69.63, it looks okay on the daily, but it's not making too much more headway. The weekly is more interesting. Watching 63 bucks coming into the close this week is going to be what I'm going to pay attention to. And no, as long as it's not dropping like 60 to 61 bucks, it's fine to keep trying to carve out this low. Again, it is a double bottom, lower low structure. Excitement back above 90 bucks on the weekly. When you really put things in perspective, excitement is back above 90 bucks on the weekly. Then we're looking for another, you know, run to 100, maybe 120 around this high. And then we can start targeting 130, 140 above there. But for right now, this is just consolidation. Well, you just load your investment account. Like if you're going to do Fidelity, you just transfer money into an investment account, and then you manage your investment account by buying and selling whatever you want. That's self-managed. I own Doge. I picked up Doge all on the lows. Just wasn't like, I buy altcoins, but I've told many of you for a very long time, I buy them on the lows. I'm not typically talking about them because I'm not typically trading them. I might get on a kick where I'm trading alts like last weekend. I traded a bunch of alts, and through, you know, the early part of this week, I was all over trading alts. You know, it was really end of last week and through the weekend and the early part of this week. But, you know, after I make my money on them, I'm I'm primarily trading Bitcoin, and I have a bunch of swing trades open. Primarily long swing trades. I do have a short-term short trade from around the upper $35,000 region, but I've already taken significant profit on it. Won't really look to reload that unless I see another failure at the highs and or a breakdown. If I get stopped out, I've already taken profit and stops are flat, so it's basically a free money right now. And then I scalp the local range on Bitcoin. I'm a scalper when I have the time. So, and sometimes those scalps are built out into swing positions, depends on what the higher term time frames are doing. But right now I've been locked in since the lows. 26K, the most recent one. I still have some of that 24, 8 to 25K swing, but that's been rebuilt a few times. So it's more like running alongside my 26.5 swing trades. So, and I've got a few, I keep them open. Take profit, add to them when they were down there to kind of position myself so that, once things get moving, I've hit a few take profits. If things head back down, I'll rebuild them and just keep them on the other side. I'll hedge on the other side too. All stuff I've explained to you guys, but I just keep those positions well positioned. And then I'll take the other side of the trade. And when we do see options open up for an ETF, once an ETF is launched, guess what? Options might not open right away with it either. But when they do, and if they do, then, I'm going to be doing a lot of hedging on both sides in the options market. That's where the money is. You can make money on arbitraging just the option itself. You can do the, full-on trade. You can do a long or a short position and hedge on the other side with options. All kinds of stuff. It just opens up just such a big world of opportunity for just making life easier when you're trading. So. Look, if you are trading altcoins, I trade altcoins. I do hold some altcoins, but they're a trade. At the end of the day, they're going to be a trade. Now, I do have altcoins from like a very long time ago that I'll probably just keep. Some died off. I didn't pay attention to which ones died, to be quite honest. But I was sweeping the lows in 18 and 19. Some even into early 20, and the crash there. I think I sold, half of those positions because they were just worth so much on the alts. When Bitcoin started to cool down at the first peak, at 55 to 65,000, we saw, face melting rallies that were already face melting at that point, but then just went parabolic on a lot of alts. So I just got rid of them. But still kept like a primary portion. I had under a penny, I think, or something, or like around a penny or 2 cents or something. It wasn't even that. At the time, I was like, that's not even a great position, but I don't care. I think it's going to go. And it went. Litecoin was like 10 or 15 bucks when I re-entered it on spot because I'd gotten rid of it already, and it had gone up like a lot. What was it at? It was around in 18. Oh no, it was 20 bucks. It's like 20 to 25. Yeah, because when I first got into it was back here in 16, 17 when it was just getting rolling, and this isn't the right chart for it. But I had first gotten into Litecoin pretty early. It wasn't even listing on exchanges yet. I mined some and then had some from there. No worries, take care. But yeah, I swept the floor on the lows for Doge and Litecoin, but we're talking the low was back here. As I didn't pick any more up on this last rundown. I probably should pick some more up because I did sell around 100 to 105 on that first spike up into resistance. I might pick up some more spot. We'll see. But all right, I think that's going to do it. You guys have a wonderful weekend. You have any questions, go ahead and shoot them my way on x.com or in the Discord for those of you that are in that Discord. Yes, I do have a Discord coming. It's still being worked on. I really want people to be able to share their charts. That's the big thing. So that's what we're going to be focusing on, enabling people to share their charts without having spammers come in and, attach wallet drainers to JPEGs and shit like that. So we're nearly to a solution on that. And then I should have a public Discord. We'll see how that goes. Or either that, or I'm just gonna have to gate it, and you're gonna have to request access. We'll do something, but still be free. All right. Yeah. So you have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. I want you to please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. We'll get the tunes rolling here for the way out as well as it played through the playlist. And yeah, with all of that being said, Landy out.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.